Welcome to a Fantasy Fan Sportscast with Easy and Lou Landers. Now enjoy the show, but don't forget our safe word.
That's right. That means it must be a Sunday. No, it's not a Sunday morning with me and Lou. This is a Saturday morning with me and Lou and special guest AA, coming at you. So yeah, this is a little different, and our safe word's a little different today. This isn't a safe word to say we're done. This is a safe word to say, if you want some safe sports information, go to thesportscrew.com. Thesportscrew.com is our safe word today, guys. You'll find our links, our post. You will find this right now. We're live on YouTube, live on Spreaker, and
Easy Kill, the wonderful Easy Kill. Please, what is the YouTube channel so people can find it? It is our YouTube channel affiliate at thesportscrew.com. I want people to be able to find that wonderful affiliate of ours.
Oh, great. Throw me off. I just know if you go to YouTube and search A Fantasy Fan, all one word, I come up. I mean, that's one word, A Fantasy Fan. Or a fantasy.
Okay, and also if you guys go to sportscrew.com, go to the radio page. There is a link. All you gotta do, it says our YouTube channel affiliate. You can click it and check out all the awesome shows. Easy, back to you.
And right. Also, my web channel, just afantasyfan.com, will also take you to the Sports Crew. More details to come. We're working on that. The website, we'll get it all updated, everything. AA, welcome joining us on our Sunday morning, Saturday version of football talk. I'm pretty excited to talk football with you, brother.
You know, there's nothing I love more than talking about the old pigskin. So I'm pretty excited about it too. And you're talking about safe words up there. Me and my lady's safe word is foliage, but sometimes she pretends she doesn't hear it. I don't know. That's just me.
Foliage. Well, luckily you live in Florida instead of Vermont. In Vermont, shit, you got, foliage could just come up at any part of the conversation. But, there you go. All right. But the safe word today, Lou, like I said, when I say the Sports Crew, we're not done. That's all I'm saying. Today, whatever time you're listening to this, we're talking contracts and helmets and other BS that's going on right now. Because for fantasy, especially, not just real football, drafts are starting. My big draft is next weekend. I mean, 2 weeks into preseason. I mean, things are happening. I enjoy early drafting. I think it makes the preseason more entertaining because you do have to pay attention if they're your players on or off the field or whatever. I know a lot of people don't like that. My argument has always been injuries are injuries. They can happen anytime after you draft. I don't care if you draft the day before the opening day. Injuries are injuries. But
easy. First off, AA puff pass, please. That looks great. In addition, to address what you're talking about, Easy, I agree that injuries happen no matter when you draft. But for me, a certain important draft I'm going to do, I need to be as close to the season as possible, as little time for guys to get injured before the season starts as possible, as much information on who's won position battles as possible.
I have that argument with a lot of people. I disagree with you. And I get why you say that. My thing is I love fantasy football so much. I want these 4 weeks to mean something. We only get 13 weeks. I want these 4 weeks to mean something. So my argument has always been add an extra IR spot just for somebody who gets hurt maybe during the preseason. Add an extra bench spot. There's things you can do. And me and Chris always talk this, a lot of expert radio shows or podcasts always talk like, they're talking about their damn, golden ball leagues and all that bullshit. Most of us are all home leagues. You know what? And we're good enough players that if you lose one or two, even if you lose two of your top 5 picks, we're good enough in most home leagues. We're going to fight back and make it fun. But my thing is, to know your player that you drafted in the first round is going to play the first series of downs tonight, playing the Bengals versus, the Colts in preseason, I would watch. That's what I'm saying. That gives me a reason to watch. That's why I like it. I understand your point. You're afraid of losing somebody, but I just think that's chicken.
And I want to add to your point, because it's a good one. For me, I would say that the experienced fantasy player really has an advantage of doing it.
I agree with that. Right.
If you can try to predict those position battle winners and you can hit on a guy that you're getting in the 7th round because he's played one preseason game and you think he's going to end up being the guy, by the time you draft the day before, he can move up to the 4th round.
Right. What about you, Double A? We've not really talked a whole lot. I know you are involved in a little bit of fantasy football, and I wanted to catch you in an exhale. What do you just draft when it's time? I got a feeling you just say whatever. Tell me when the draft is, and I'll be there. Do you care one way or the other?
No, not at all, man. Here's what's up with fantasy football, dude. I'm currently not in any drafts other than this 40 guy roster, 20 offense, 20 IDP. It's a really deep league that's way out of my league, and I shouldn't even be in it, but it's the only one I'm in right now. Honestly, if I get into a league before football starts, I'll fucking make the playoffs. Like I'll read some shit. I'll take Patrick Mahomes in the 3rd round. I'll make some shit happen because honestly, like I'm better than the fantasy football players I play with because I'm a fantasy baseball guy, so I'm used to grinding. I could do a lot with a little time. It really, these people like these guys who like a couple of weeks ago, there were these nerds eating lunch at this pokey place I go to talking about fantasy football. I'm like, half those cats aren't even going to be playing by the time the league starts. They're going to get hurt or hit their girlfriends or get caught up on drug charges or something, because those NFL players, they are the worst. Like, we used to say the NFL, the N doesn't stand for national most of the time, and it really is some animal shit. But no, man, I mean, it's fantasy football, dude. And the 3 nerds who listen to this cry that I don't need to research fantasy football to beat you. It's really easy. There's a lot of information out there. So no, easy. I'm not researching my draft yet. It's still too early. But here's what it comes down to. What you said about you like to get in early because like I know I've heard the thing. It's like if you listen early and you know stuff that like people like me don't know, that's an advantage. Like a few years ago, I got Kareem Hunt late because people didn't know who he was because I was tuned into the Chiefs. It's stuff like that I'm going to miss out on. But I'll just keep my head in the game for when a player goes down and I need their backup. Boom, fantasy football, done. That's how you win championships.
Well, and you know what? I think that is the major difference between fantasy football and fantasy baseball. And I'm not saying you can't win a league in fantasy baseball on the waiver wire, because you can. But with fantasy football, waivers is the most important part of the game to me. From a baseball standpoint, you got to draft well, you got to have deep players, and you got to be able to make smart trades. In fantasy football, you don't need to make trades even to win. You do a good draft, get some core players, but it's the waiver wire moves that you make. Like last year, Philip Lindsay, for instance, perfect example. A lot of teams that had Philip Lindsay on them last year went deep into the playoffs.
Right. I mean, I agree with that, which is also my point of why you can draft earlier. You don't have to worry about that. Meaning it's a recovery league. It's a recovery sport. And I always have this argument is the difference between fantasy baseball, because all 3 of us are baseball players too, is the difference between fantasy baseball and football, the difference between chess and checkers. That's the one I hear the most. I don't believe that personally. I think it's the difference between chess and chess without the knights. Meaning, you know what? Yeah, they've taken out some pieces, but there's still some. I just don't. Maybe it's the football in me. I just don't think football is checkers compared to chess. I think it's chess with maybe a few less pieces, with maybe not the oddball, horsey going down and turning left or right, that kind of thing. But it's still, there's strategy involved, which in checkers, I'm not as much. That's my point. I don't think it's checkers and chess, but I do think baseball helps my football game. I do agree with that, Double A. I mean, I really do. It teaches you to, just look at things a little different, pay more attention to the depthness of the, waivers and stuff like that. But again, that's why I don't think it's a problem starting early, and let me start playing now. Like I said, I've done a few best balls and 1 regular draft. And again, I start watching preseason games now because I want to see what my players are doing just in case there's an injury or, just something changes. And that's why we got on today. Talk about contracts and some of that and how it would affect drafts that you're getting ready to do.
I want to talk about that, but one more thing I want to add in. Do you want to host Easy? You and I do like a auction league for the website.
We can. You know what? We can talk about that in a little bit or off the air. Me and Chris on my Wednesday night show, we were setting up a league with some with some other members that now might change. So maybe we can adapt or can the AFFI, a fantasy fan invitational. Maybe we can get something going on there. But yeah, we'll post something and try to get a full league, and we'll definitely do something so we can talk about it.
I guarantee you I can fill it.
Well, I know that. And I mean, that's the thing I already have. We'll talk. We'll get something. We got to get Double A into some kind of a damn league. That boy. So we'll get it there. But let's start with Zeke Elliott. We'll go with the contracts first because all off season Zeke was my number one guy. Now I thought he was the number one guy you want to draft, and now obviously that's totally changed. Lou, I know you're a Cowboy guy. Yankees, Cowboys. I don't know. I'm guessing you like Golden State also. But
yeah, you know the story. You know the backstory. I got lucky this year. The Toronto Raptors, I thought they never do anything, and one of my Toronto teams actually won.
I know, Greg, on the Sunday morning show, you had your Toronto hat on a few times back then, but and obviously that was way before they did what they did. I mean, that was.
I'm from Toronto. You would expect me to cheer for the Raptors.
I agree,
right? So either way. With regards to Zeke Elliott, I mean, there's so many factors to consider from a fantasy standpoint. Right now, I obviously would be a little concerned, but the reason why I'm not so concerned is more from a football standpoint. Jerry Jones can come out and say whatever the hell he wants about the fact that that the Cowboys don't need a good running back or a running game to go to the Super Bowl. I don't think they're going to the Super Bowl with or without Zeke. But you look at the first season with Dak and Zeke, how good they were. Then the next year, Zeke missed 6 games. The Cowboys were flat. I think they went 7-9, 8-8. The last year, again, yes, Amari Cooper had a big part of it. Yes, Michael Gallup developed into a good player for them. But it's Dak and Zeke right now. So the quarterback play from Dak, which some people knock and some people don't. I think he's a solid quarterback, only going to get better. But Zeke Elliott is what makes that offense run. They have a tremendous offensive line. Could be getting Travis Frederick back this year too. He's an all-pro at center. And then with the running game that they have with Zeke Elliott, it allows Dak Prescott to do the things that he is good at, which is play actions, fakes down the field, finding the open man. And this team has no chance of being successful if they don't have Zeke Elliott. So they will end up paying him.
Okay, so you think this is Cowboys are going to give in, not a Zeke giving in. So how many weeks are we going to go, though? Do you think
he will play by week 4 in the preseason?
Man, you think so? You think he's going to miss games, though, even though you're convinced he's going to be on the team?
Well, he's missing tonight's game. They're playing the 49ers tonight. Not playing his first game. The reports I've read, and I've been reading a lot on it, is that they actually have reached out to Zeke's agent and are in the midst of discussions on a contract. So the issue is not if the Cowboys want Zeke or Zeke wants the Cowboys. They both want each other. It's just going to come down to how much money is the Cowboys willing to dish out, and is Zeke going to feel respected by their offer? Because let's all agree here, maybe one other player, Zeke should be the highest paid running back in the NFL based on what he's done as an NFL player.
I know, but it gets hard to pay. I mean, I get it too. I see both sides. It's getting harder and harder to pay those running backs, though, because there's so many good ones. There's a big difference between the great ones, but
I was going to say there's good and there's great, and there's not that many great running backs, and Zeke is one of them.
And they're only great for like 2 years anyway, so you got to take one again. Here's where I'm at, since I'm the football guy here. I feel like absolutely the Cowboys are going to pay this man because they're really nothing without him. They're really just whatever. They'll win their division because it's terrible. Like, the Giants are terrible. The Redskins are terrible. Like, it's the NFC least is what it is.
Oh yeah,
but here's what it comes down
to. Down to the wire.
Yeah.
Right? It's going to be them and the Eagles in that division, right?
Yeah, and there's a wild card spot, and they'll get it, and that's cool. But Jerry Jones is 77. He's a fucking old man. He wants to win a ring, and he's not winning it. He's probably not winning it with Zeke, but he's definitely not winning it without him. And he could say whoever they want can run behind that line, but that's fucking false as a fantasy owner who drafts the backups of Zeke, waiting for him to go down or on a suspension. That the clown from the Raiders, who the hell's the guy who was backing him up for a while? The D-Mac, right? Darren McFadden?
Oh, McFadden,
he was backing him up for a little while, and he didn't do Zeke shit. So stop it. This old man is going to die soon, and
didn't do much either.
No, nobody has. And Jerry Jones don't want to die like that owner in Detroit who just died without his team winning a ring. That owner in Detroit wanted a World Series ring, but they fucking let him down. Jerry Jones is going to die soon, folks, and he's going to fucking sign Zeke because you don't just not sign one of the best fucking guys in football. He's a fucking knucklehead.
If you're worried, you don't have to offer the guy an insanely long deal. Just pay him a shit ton of money.
Right.
Yeah, pay him fucking 3 years, $50 million, like the asshole who's refusing to play because of a fucking helmet.
Okay, we'll get there in a minute. But those, you know how it's the electricity to have that big television on in the middle of that stadium. That's not cheap. You got to have that big TV, up and fired up. Now, what they did sign Alfred Morris. I've always enjoyed Alfred Morris. Had a couple good years. I mean,
he signed Alfred Morris. Yeah, he had been there before. He was good in Washington. A lot of that had to do with RG3 and the threat of the RG3 with their like pass run pass option. He was probably the best guy they've had behind Zeke from a running between the tackle standpoint. He's definitely more than adequate. He's definitely fantasy relevant if he's the starter.
Okay.
Touchdowns.
So if you're and again maybe you might be a little biased if you're drafting today for fantasy, like I said, for all off season I had Zeke number one.
Okay. I'll put it simple. If you are drafting Zeke Elliott, you better be handcuffing him.
So Alfred Morris
for now. Let's see, because they have some other young.
Okay, it's not a let's see. Let's say we draft tomorrow. If you take Zeke, and that's still my question. Are you taking Zeke? Would you pick Zeke number one today?
No, absolutely not.
All right.
There's no reason to. There's other guys that are.
Where would you, as a Zeke and a Cowboys fan, where would you take Zeke in the first? I'm assuming you'll take him somewhere in the first round.
I would take him after pick 6 if I wanted a running back.
And then would you come back and take Morris maybe earlier than you would a normal handcuff?
Well, I mean, if I didn't know Zeke was out, I wouldn't be drafting Alfred Morris till the last couple of rounds.
Well, but I see you take Zeke number 6. I'll take Morris 2 rounds early just for the hell of it. That's just
that's what I'm saying. So instead of, let's say there's 18 rounds, instead of drafting Morris in round 17, I might go around 13 or 14.
Right, just to make
have my starters.
Right. So so you're saying you drop him to 6. Double A, if you were drafting today, with all the knowledge of fantasy you already have this year, where would you be taking Zeke?
I'd be fine at 8 or 9, I guess. I mean, I carried Le'Veon Bell all season. I'm not used to fucking getting. I'm used to getting dicked on my pick, but like 9, I'm comfortable with because I could come back and take another guy that's decent, right. And then it's really just finding yourself an RB2 for a little while that's hot for a bit. I picked up James Conner in like the first week of waivers. If I had James Conner and like I don't know who's a second round guy now, like Joe Mixon, I'd be okay. I like Joe Mixon. Something like that, I think I could get by with that because let's be honest, guys, we're talking fantasy football, not baseball, right? Come on now, girls with fantasy football.
I want to say personally,
that was coming.
It's all personal preference, but I am traditionally a wide receiver heavy early when it's PPR, and I pretty much only play PPR now. So for me, I'm likely, unless I'm drafting in the top 3 spots, I'm taking probably wide receiver.
Well, that was my question. So at 6, you said 6, you'd take Zeke. At 6, if your choice
that would be
your choice is Hopkins, but at 6, if Hopkins or Zeke are your 2 options, which direction would you go at 6?
I'd probably go Zeke only because I know he shouldn't actually be there still. But
I'd have trouble.
traditionally, if you're talking running back or Hopkins, I'm going Hopkins traditionally.
Right. But I think Hopkins would be the only wide receiver I would take above Zeke in the first round, to be honest, that late. So I don't know if I'd want Adams or Jones. There's still a little gamble there.
There's absolutely no gamble on Devontae Adams, in my opinion.
Not a gamble, but I think I'd be more.
I would not take him before Hopkins, but there's no gamble.
No, but would you take Zeke before him?
Well, I already said I probably would before Hopkins, based on thinking I'm getting good value. But no, if I'm picking 6 or later, I'm looking at Hopkins or Devontae Adams.
Right.
Or Julio because of the receptions.
But I also agree with Double A little bit. If I could get Zeke lower than 6 and then come back and and get, Gurley, Cook, Mixon, or Bell, all 4 of those could be number 1 guys if things go right. And then let's say you get Zeke full bore in the 3rd or 4th game of the season. I could live with that. Especially in a league where 6 teams go to the playoffs. Leagues that go 4, you're in a league where 4 teams go to the playoffs, you got to be careful of getting a player who's not going to play in game 1. I'm sorry.
100%. But for a situation like that, if you were a Zeke owner and you missed him for the first 4 weeks of the season, if you even go 2-2, you're set up just fine. Now, if you go 0-4, it's going to be a tough hill. It's going to be a tough hill to climb.
Yeah.
If you go 1-3, you got to beat the people that are ahead of you. You can't lose to them again. But the whole thing is surviving stuff, kind of like
that. I agree. Now, the other person then is obviously Melvin Gordon. That's the other big contract holdout. The deal with Melvin Gordon, he was in the middle of the first round, and he's dropped all the way in the middle of the 6th round. He's dropped obviously a lot farther than Zeke has.
That's lower than that.
That's ridiculous.
Okay. There are people now putting him in the 3rd round. I know he keeps falling in ADP. I mean, he just keeps going.
That's ridiculous.
I don't think it's ridiculous at all. Here's where I'm at. You got a guy who one side you got the Chargers offer him $10 million. The other side, Melvin says that's not enough. You got the Chargers saying this guy's family, and Melvin Gordon's agent requested a trade, and they did not give him the right to seek out a trade partner. So he's holding him hostage. It's a Le'Veon Bell situation. Melvin Gordon sits out this year.
Yeah, but see, I guess if you told me my choice was Zeke, taking a gamble at pick 6 and number 1, or Gordon as a gamble at the end of round 3 or early 4, I'd take Gordon instead. I mean, I just would. I mean, because if I lose that 4th pick, then I'm fine. And then obviously you still, now the problem to me, the problem there, and I know, I really think today if we were drafting, Morris is the backup. Morris would be at least the 1st and 2nd down back. But unfortunately, I think the Chargers, that's the problem with the Chargers. I'm not sure their backfield is set yet. So, Eckler can be good. He can catch the ball. I think you're guaranteed at least get 3rd down out of him. I just don't know if
I would say if you are for instance, like someone like me, a Melvin Gordon owner in dynasty leagues, or if you're planning on drafting Melvin Gordon, keep your eye on Justin Jackson.
Yeah.
In that Chargers backfield. Justin Jackson is the guy that is much more likely to get a bunch of carries. Eckler will retain the same role that he had and potentially get a couple extra touches because they're not going to want to run Jackson into the ground.
Right. And right now, right now he's going below Eckler, I think, in most drafts, but about the same round. But the good thing about Eckler is Eckler's going to get playing time regardless. So if you're taking a late round flyer on another back, Eckler is going to be there in the 3rd down back situation or at the end of the game if they're down and they're just running a bunch of plays. But I do agree with Double A that I think it is more likely that he will miss the whole season than Zeke. Here is the difference when I listen to both of them talk, though. Zeke seems, in Zeke's mind, Zeke seems like I don't care. Gordon acts like, okay, I care, but I do want my money too. Zeke, I don't know. There's a little bit of crazy in Zeke. I think there's that little bit in the back of Zeke where you go, I just won't. Who's the guy that played for Miami and
Ricky Williams.
Ricky Williams. I think there's a little Ricky Williams in. Ricky Williams just go, I don't care. I'm going to go get Mello in Colorado. I'm going to go get Mello in the mountains of, some other country, and then I'll come back a year or two later. I see a tad of that crazy in Zeke. He had it when he was with the Buckeyes. I'm sorry. So player-wise, I think Gordon wants to play. He just doesn't want to be, treated with less respect. I think Zeke could go either way. I think Zeke's convinced he could be in the WWE Sunday night and get paid, brother. I think I think there's some of that in him where he would go, I'll be fine without this. So.
Yeah, but Zeke's going to get the money thrown at him, and Gordon's not. And Gordon's not playing this year. So, you could throw something out there and grab him in the third if you want. But I was talking to my friend Black Phil the other day. I'm like, God damn, I picked Le'Veon Bell with the 3 pick last year. You know what would have been mocked but would have been a better pick? Adam Thielen with the number 3 overall pick. Like, it would have been like, what are you doing? But It's like, oh, yeah, but Le'Veon Bell didn't get me any points. So it's like, I'm not even gonna mess with any of these dudes. There's a lot of other ways to go, and Melvin Gordon ain't playing. Zeke's gonna get offered too much money when the Giants blow out the Cowboys in week 1, and that's gonna be that. Zeke will be back by week 2.
And I'll be honest, I'm trying to play devil's advocate because I'm like you guys. I do not want my first or second picks. I'm a good enough player. I think I can get around them if they don't, if things don't work right. But I don't like drafting the problem to begin with. I have
a question for you guys. How many shares of Le'Veon Bell did you have across all your leagues last year? Because for me, 0.
I was 0. I wasn't interested. Now, if I messed up last year, I didn't mess up on him. I messed up on Connor. I believe Bell was coming back, and I didn't want Bell because of the headache, but I still was one of those that thought he would still play. I didn't want the headache, but
that might be a downfall for me with Gordon. If Double A is right about Melvin Gordon, that will be a downfall for me because I do think he's going to play. I don't know if it's going to be with the Chargers, but I do think Gordon is going to play this year. And for me, so I'm in a dynasty league that I won last year. It's with my boy Ron Mad Dog McLeod. It's his league. And 2 of my running backs that I have are Zeke and Gordon. So I'm starting to sweat it a little bit because I want, I'm the defending champ. I want to come out and battle again. I got a solid team. I can make the playoffs if those guys don't play a snap. But I have to consider trying to trade for their handcuffs. I know there's a guy that has Justin Jackson out there right now. I might have to offer him a 3rd-round pick.
Right.
And a player just to cover my own ass.
But that's my point, though. You can make 2 mistakes in this situation. The mistake that you pick the guy and he doesn't play, or that you don't pick him, but you also don't look at his handcuffs, or and you can still make the playoffs and win if you make both those mistakes. That's my point. And maybe that goes back to fantasy football. It's easier to make a mistake and recoup than it is in baseball. I feel, even though I'm the football guy, I do feel. Chris and I had that discussion on our last show that, you hear all these guys say, these, fantasy experts on Sirius and some of that, you can't win your league in the first round, but you can lose it. I disagree. I really believe if you're a good enough player in a home league, if your first round player busts, he busts. You make moves, you do stuff. It's like in my home league, I had the second pick to decide where we want to pick. I picked number 12. So I'm picking 12 and 13. But the other advantage I get there is I get the number 1 waiver spot. I think in fantasy football, that number 1 waiver spot where you can pick up the top guy in week 1, 2, or 3, that can win you a league just as well as that number 1 pick of the draft. I really think people devalue or don't even pay attention to that if you're playing a fab where that, you get the number 1 fab, and you can hold on to it until you use it. There's value there. Like Double A said, you could have got Connor in round, with the very first waiver pick in week 1, and you're set. So to me, to pick 12 and 13, I've done a lot of mocks. I'm going to get 2 pretty decent wide receivers, or a decent wide receiver, or maybe a Zeke. Hell, by next Sunday, I could get Zeke at 12 and Jones at 13, and then come back with the waiver wire pick in week 1 or 2 and get some running back that was, eating off of a coffee table, during spring training. But let's go to the other side of this, which I don't even know if it's a contract issue. I don't think it's the helmet thing that came up.
Has nothing to do with the contract or money. He already had that issue.
I talk about a little crazy. Hashtag yeast infection, but this there is something rotten. What is the deal? We decided to do this on a whim, so I didn't get into all the details. I just listened to Sirius last night and was doing some stuff. I guess
were you listening to Sirius XM 211 Sports Overnight America with Lou Landers and Ron McLeod
on Friday night?
I was.
You're my favorite, Lou. You're my favorite.
I'm messing with you, man. Go on.
But my point is, I don't know all the details, but I guess, let me make sure, his helmet has been ruled by the NFL to not meet the new standards for the head injury stuff. So they have said he can't use it. He has said, if I can't use it, I'm not going to play. Is this, I don't think, he's the only one that loses money here, right? The Raiders can't throw money at the problem. I that's about as much as I know. And I don't think the NFL, speaking of losing a lot of money, this concussion thing's cost them a lot of money. I can't imagine them budging on this one. Am I missing any more of the news? And or, is this just part of
you're not missing more of the news. Just like OBJ has been in the past and like Brown has been in the past, he's being a diva. He's being a prima donna. I've even seen that his absence from training camp and preseason has absolutely nothing to do with the whole frostbite bullshit on his feet. It has everything to do with this helmet, which, by the way, they had a 1-year grace period. They weren't necessarily supposed to use it last year either, their old helmets, but they had that 1-year grace period. This year is mandatory. The helmet that they used to use has been banned by the NFL. And Brown showed up. When he did show up, he was wearing the old helmet. And when they told him not to do it, that's where all this came from.
He showed up in the hot air balloon?
I won't play ever again.
Yeah, he showed up in the hot air balloon, but obviously his brains are in his toes, and that is what got froze. So,
that's the thing, man. He's doing this cryo shit. Why is Antonio Brown doing white people shit without supervision? The cryotherapy. Like, what is he doing out there? Like, somebody pay attention to this man. He signed a 3-year, $50 million contract with the Raiders, knowing he had to switch the helmet, and they just said, yeah, dude, he signed it anyway. The Raiders have been sending him helmets for about a week now, and he's just like, nah, I ain't even messing with this. He says it messes with the vision, but other wide receivers in the league say it actually helps their vision. I don't know what to say. Even last season, he skipped the last walkthrough with the Steelers. He left the season finale early. It doesn't matter what happens to the Raiders are one of my least favorite franchises in football. Go Chiefs. That's Mahomes' division for the next 10 years. So suck it, Raider fans. And secondly, it's just amazing to me that this shit is going on, the helmet. I'll straight up go play 16 games with no helmet for $50 million.
Yeah, but
sign me up.
The NFL won't let you do that. That's the point. This helmet is to protect you better. I'd assume this Pizza Hut or Coke, I don't know who pays him. Has he got enough money that he doesn't have to play? Because I'm assuming
he's definitely got enough money that he
if he doesn't play, the Raiders don't pay him. I'm assuming this is truly just if you don't play, you don't get paid, right?
Yeah, NFL, like nothing even matters when you sign contracts in the NFL. It just kind of goes away when you start to stink. He had his second 2-hour hearing with the NFL the other day. That comes back next week, but there's no way they approve it. So I don't know. I don't know. You just don't know in the NFL. Dudes just up and leave. So who knows, dude? Calvin Johnson up and left the NFL because he wasn't feeling it. So maybe he could do the same thing.
The problem with Antonio Brown, though, unlike Calvin Johnson, and that is a good comparison, is that Antonio Brown is selfish. He is entitled. He's a spoiled little baby brat. He's not the difference. There's the superstars and there's icons. And Antonio Brown is a superstar, but he's not an icon. No matter how good he does, no matter what records he breaks, because he's a piece of shit.
love Calvin Johnson.
I don't know who said she loves him, but hey,
That was Meg Boobs.
That was that was the wonderful Megan, also part of the sports crew.
Yeah, I think Megan has been in the Sit Start show a few times last year. I
She
think
claimed she had Calvin Johnson on her fantasy team when he scored 50 points in one game.
That
So
was my first year, and I won. Ask
And that's why I'm saying fantasy football, you people who get all worked up about it, it's a joke. Some chick in the background won her league, and you guys let her draft Calvin Johnson. You fucking fools.
that's because home leagues are home leagues. Most home leagues, that's what I'm saying. You don't have to be that good to win a home league, or at least be competitive in most cases. But now let's move this to fantasy. Bell or Brown has been going most of the time in the second round. Are you again? I have not been. I'm not anyway.
Hard pass.
But I am also I never say no to anybody. In round 5, I'd grab him. I mean, at some point you got to go.
Yeah, he ain't going.
Okay, but my point is, how far does he fall right now if you're drafting tomorrow?
Well, you think about the receivers ahead of him.
On name alone, easy.
Well, I don't think there's any receivers ahead of him. On Oakland, there is nobody else, right? Don't they have?
No, that's not what I meant. Like, you take Julio, you take Hopkins, you take Thielen and Diggs. I think you take at this point over him. I take Travis Kelce over him, honestly. Like, I'm more inclined to grab Kelce in the third round or something than grab him in the third round.
You can get a tight end like Kelce that puts up wide receiver, like top 5 wide receiver numbers, then I'm with you, Double A.
Kelce's going in the late first, early second. Kelce, you're not getting in the third.
That's madness.
Well, but I'm just saying, home leagues, that's where it's happening. Now, here's where I'm
going where Gronk went like 3 years ago.
If he dropped,
come on, fools! Like, why are people drafting? I'm sorry, give me a second, man. Why are people drafting tight ends? Why are people drafting tight ends even before the third round? Has Gronk ever done anybody good?
I agree, but I actually looked into it last year in PPR settings.
In setting, I agree.
Was so far ahead of the tight end 4 and down that having him on your team for 16 weeks of the season really does give you a serious advantage.
In most,
so far ahead of the.
You take Kelce over Mike Evans?
No.
Okay. I'm not saying first round. What I'm saying is the value of having a player like him at that position. It's far superior to even the advantage of having a superstar catcher in baseball. It really is such a drop off from him from tight end 4 and below.
No, because in most league scoring, especially in PPR, he was a number 2 wide receiver on most teams. I mean, if you had him, you were getting, your number 2 wide receiver numbers out of a tight end spot.
You're getting wide receiver 1 type numbers.
Yeah. So now, and again, people will make fun. I take someone like Kelce, like let's say this year, I'm picking 12 and 13. I consider Kelce early for a different reason. I consider Kelce early, and then later in the draft, I might come back and pick up a Rude or even an Eifert. And if just one of those gives me 2 or 3 decent weeks where I'm like, all right, I can survive with them, I'll move Kelce right away to some team that has some shitty tight end or whatever, and I'll pop a number 2 and maybe a number 3 running back out of one tight end. It's amazing.
All I can say is don't pull a Steve Bateman and take the Jacksonville Jaguars in round 3.
Yeah, I understand that one. I'm just saying.
Easy just got uncomfortable.
I flipped Gronk. No, I love the Bateman. 13 ghosts, bitches.
Literally all ghosts now.
I walk in the halls of that hotel. Oh my God, but I guess my thing is I have drafted Gronk the last few years early in the second, and I have flipped him. It's amazing where if people get desperate to make the playoffs, it's easy to sell them like, oh, I know he's having a bad year, but if he goes off the next 4 weeks, this will get you in the playoffs. And, I'll take that chance. All right. The odds of Brown not playing now, is this, if we're going to rate him, Zeke, Gordon, Brown, where are we on the may never play this year, might play this year? We'll definitely
start with the guy most likely, and it's going to be Zeke.
Okay.
Second most likely is going to be Brown because at least he has a contract.
Yeah, all right.
I'm going to go Melvin Gordon, although I think all three of them play.
All right. Would you draft him in that order as far as availability and value? Is that how you would draft him also?
Yeah, probably.
Double A, what do you think? Same order, or do you?
Yeah, if I'm playing F, marry, kill with those three, I agree with Lou. Just the same order. I mean, Melvin's not playing. I said it here. I just don't think he's playing. Zeke is going to get so much money thrown at him by that old man in Dallas when he loses, gets his ass beat by the Redskins and the Giants. It ain't even going to be funny because those teams shouldn't beat him. And then Antonio Brown, he's a clown. So who knows, man?
Now,
But
here would be my only switch on this. The only thing I would get is, to me, if Brown and Zeke decide not to play, I don't think you see him at all. I think Gordon, the way his contract is written, you're going to see him in week 11, right? I mean, meaning if you're drafting the last weekend and he definitely is sitting, blah, 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 I still think I take a late round flyer on Gordon, because if he does come back in weeks 10 or 11 and you get him for your playoffs, I'm willing to say that. I guess that would be my only thing about F, Mary kill. I don't think I'd kill Gordon, because I do think Gordon does. If they all decide to sit, he is the one that I think the way the contract is, almost his contract's a little different than Bell. Bell had an option where he really knew he didn't have to play at all because he kind of really held all the cards. I think Gordon has to come back in. Is it week 10 or 11? One of those.
I think it was 11.
Yeah.
To get next year.
Just to count, right. Otherwise, he's in the same boat next year.
Easy. I agree with your thoughts and your principles on, and like your takes on this year. For me, I think that Zeke Elliott is also, not because the contract is the way it is, but I think if the Cowboys don't offer him what he wants now, if they start 1-2 or 2-4 or something like that without him, they'll throw the money at him because they don't want it to be a lost season.
And you say that. My thing is, though, Zeke has that little crazy anymore. I think if they go 0-4, Zeke goes, my number just changed. I think that crazy is in Zeke, where he would go, I now want 60. That 50 I said before the season, Jerry, you should have jumped on that. I now want a little bit of Dax money too. That's
probably that's probably gonna happen. But I'm saying the Cowboys will just pay him.
All right.
At some point, they'll pay him whatever the hell they need to pay him because of the fact that they need him. They can say whatever the hell they want, but they need him.
Okay. All right. Any we plan on a half hour, and obviously with me and Double A, I don't think anything would ever go a half hour. It's really hard. Any other crazy? Those were the three main reasons we want to come on and do a show today. Because again, I do think people are starting to draft in the next week or two, and that those are definitely three spots where you're gonna have to make a choice. Anything else weird, crazy that we need to know that's happened in the last 48 hours?
Think so, but I think the moral of this episode here today is what to do in fantasy football with Antonio Brown, Zeke Elliott, and Melvin Gordon.
I agree. # yeast infection. Just powder that up and let it lie. I don't see me having either of the three unless it just, again, they really have to drop value-wise. I mean, that's my point. Everyone's draftable. I don't see myself personally getting Zeke even in the first round. If he fell to me at 12, I got to tell you, I'd have to think about it. But I don't know. I'd prefer not to have to deal with it.
We also have to keep in mind, is this a $20 league or a $400 league? A $20 league, I'll take Zeke in the first round. This is my main home league, the league that got me started. It's $100. So it's, and this is, we draft live. We know each other. Everybody sees you. I mean, unfortunately, these are one of those leagues where the money's cool, but harassment and all that other stuff really is a part of the game. I mean, people will tell you all year long, if you drafted Zeke 12 and he didn't play the whole time, you're going to hear the guy who drafted Bell number 1 last year in our league still gets crap about it because he did not come back and pick Gordon. And we drafted the Sunday before opening day, before the opening game. So he still believed on that Sunday that Bell was going to play the next week, and he picked him number 1 overall, and he still gets shit for it. So what can we say? And you know what, though? Here's the thing. That guy, that player or owner made the Super Bowl. He lost it, but he did make it. So his number 1 pick, fell through, and he still made it. So, all right. The safe word
thesportscrew.com, or foliage.
Foliage.
Foliage. I got to get I know.
Come on, dude. What are you saying? Look at the nice foliage changing on the trees.
Yeah, look at that leaf has a lot of foliage. I love Double A. He's my grammar checker. I'm not that smart, Double A.
You're very smart, man, dude. I would just like to end on this. Sometimes I'm asked, would I rather be feared or loved? That's easy. Both. I want people to be afraid of how much they love me. And if that's a crime, sue me.
There you go. Right. Someone should fear my love. That's true. Mr. Lulanders, I'll let you go first. What do you got going on? Where can people find you? And I know you'll say thesportscrew.com because you love my safe word.
Well, it's been a pleasure talking with you guys, first and foremost. Lou Landers, yes, at Landers Talks on Twitter. You can find me on Facebook as well, sportscrew.com. I do a weekly show, of course, Sirius XM 211 Sports Overnight America with my buddy Ron McLeese, and I'm pretty much doing at least one show a day. I'm always giving content on something, some sports, whether it's fantasy strategy, whether it's just straight up sports talk. So come, listen, talk, ask me questions. I'm pretty approachable.
That's cool. I know that. Double A, I don't even know if you want people to find you. Anything you want to throw out there before we let you go? Come on, throw the wisdom there, tank top boy. I just, you know what? I just got the dueling tank tops. Was that a plan, Double A? That was a plan, wasn't it? Dang it.
Yeah.
I did not get the memo.
Nobody does, dude. And the bun, too. The Lou Landers bun. I'm just going Lou Landers now.
I have no
for
bun.
the new year. But
I got the guns, so I can't go there, brother. I'm sorry.
Dude, I do have my own brand. It is called the Man Bun Tank Top brand.
Man Bun Top Tank brand. All right.
I just want to say, guys, thanks for inviting me. This was very unexpected. I didn't know we were going to do something, but I mean, the least you guys could do is invite me to my own party, so I appreciate that. And till next time. Ciao.
All right. I had a blast. I can be found on Twitter at a fantasy fan, all one word, which is also the YouTube channel. Or you can go to afantasyfan.com, which will take you to the Sports Crew and, listen to our stuff there. Lou, thanks again for doing this. Everybody, if you're drafting this weekend, have fun. Good luck. And maybe stay away from what we talked about today. Lou, say goodnight.
Good night, everybody.
This has been Just a Fantasy Fan podcast. And to keep your fantasies going, follow us at justafantasyfan.com. Say good night. Good night.